And next, we're going to be having Afri-Caribbean trade with commodities and agriculture. Taking us forward is the senior manager, commodity and structured trade finance for Afreximbank. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Mr. Benoit Messi. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes up to the stage. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand behind the previously established courtesies and convey my honor and pleasure to address this important gathering on the topic of trade between Africa and the Caribbean community, particularly when it relates to agriculture and commodity. Africa, continental Africa, and the Caribbean community are the two central pillars of what we now know as global Africa. They have a shared history, they have cultural bonds, they have mutual aspirations, which position them uniquely to forge a future of collective prosperity. However, in spite of this rich history and this massive potential, the state of trade between the two regions is significantly underdeveloped. Data from 2024 establish Afri-Caribbean trade levels at around $729 million, excluding tobacco, arms and ammunition, and fossil fuel, which is, whether you believe it or not, a decline from measurements that were made 5, 6 years before, 2018. In terms of percentage, depending on the literature that you look at, it represents about 2 to 4% of the exchanges. And I think we can all agree that it's a significantly low number for regions that have so much to do together. We therefore need to change the state of affairs. And as you know, Afreximbank has been at the forefront of many initiatives aimed at bridging the trade gap between the two regions. Afreximbank has recently announced the construction of a trade center worth 180 million in the Barbados that will be a symbol of the common ambition between Africa and the Caribbean to enhance the trade between our regions. The bank had also previously established its Caribbean office, regional office in Bridgeton, Barbados, from where it is spearheading initiatives aimed at developing trade between the two regions. In collaboration with the International Trade Center, Afreximbank has established that the trade volumes between Africa and the Caribbean will reach 1.8 billion by 2028 in 3 years, which will be more than doubling what we currently have, subject to a number of reforms, a number of initiatives being undertaken. Some of these initiatives, if to talk about them in details, pertain to first, market intelligence. The data that I've cited tells you that there's no accurate and frequent measure of the volumes of trade between our region. So the first order of business would then be to have systems in place to ensure that we track accurately what is being exchanged between the two regions. Why not, for instance, establish an index leveraging on agencies in Africa and in the Caribbean to accurately measure what is being exchanged between the two regions. Second order of business is policy harmonization. The previous speaker has spoken eloquently about how AFCFTA can be used to foster the, the trade relationship between Africa and the Caribbean. I think there's a call to go beyond and look at how we can have legal framework in place to facilitate and enhance this trade. Third order of business to achieve these trade enhancements is infrastructural development. Uh, Leaning on the example of my dear friend Olusegun, it shouldn't take us 15 days to go from point A to point B. It shouldn't take us going to other continents to exchange between ourselves. And yesterday, the Prime Minister talked about the need to establish direct connections between Africa and the Caribbean. So the bank remains open to support initiatives aiming at enhancing logistical networks, including ports, roads, storage facilities, to support efficient movement of goods and people. The fourth item of this initiative aimed at enhancing trade between the two regions is private sector engagement. We have long rested on our government's ability to do the needful to develop our trade. It is time to continue to involve the private sector and ensure that people with resources, business ideas, networks, and partnership are duly supported. On a daily basis, Afreximbank undertakes this assignment, and we express the wish that other institutions, public, private, will join us in the effort to involving the private sector more in the development of trade. Finally, which is some consider the most important item, financial support. And leveraging Afreximbank financial instruments to provide trade financing, risk mitigation, and investment support tailored to the uniqueness of the trade between Africa and the Caribbean is something that the bank has repeatedly confirmed willingness to do. Today, we are working on a pipeline of more than $2.5 billion of financing between the Caribbean community and Africa. And we welcome any initiative, any business aspiration that looks at developing the trade between these two regions. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the journey towards enhancing trade between Africa and the Caribbean community is one that will require the involvement and the effort of all of us. It's one thing to say rightfully that we have a common history and we have mutual aspirations. It's another thing to take the practical steps towards delivering business opportunities across the region and making this concept of a global Africa a reality. Afreximbank stands willing, ready, able to support in that matter. And our presence today signifies our willingness to support the development of trade between the regions. Thank you very much.